What's up, guys? It's me, Rich. You're about to watch a Democrat Senate candidate's seven-figure ad campaign collide head-on with his own voting record. I kid you not. And the gap between the two is bigger than his campaign wants you to notice. James Talarico is telling Texas voters he's the affordability guy, the tax cutter, the bridge builder. But his actual legislative history tells a very different story, one involving property taxes he didn't help cut, tax cuts he actively fought against, and a corruption vote that raises its own questions. And if you stick with me till the end of this video, you'll see exactly how Ken Paxton's opponent built an ad around a record that doesn't even seem to exist. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to RPW Media. We're going to talk more about this story tomorrow night, Friday night at 6 p.m. Eastern on our live stream. If you're new, please like and subscribe, and thank you. So, James Talarico, the progressive Texas Democrat running for the U.S. Senate, just dropped his first big ad of the general election. We're talking seven figures, every major Texas market. And the centerpiece of the whole thing is affordability. Talarico wants you to believe he's the guy who reached across the aisle and brought both parties together to lower your taxes while serving in the Texas House. Give this a watch.
Many Texans feel like they're drowning. The cost of groceries, gas, healthcare. I'm James Talarico. In the State House, I brought both parties together to make life more affordable, capping the cost of insulin, cutting taxes for small businesses, and passing the largest property tax cut in Texas history. In the Senate, I'll take on corruption and keep fighting to lower your costs. I approve this message because it shouldn't be this hard to keep your head above water.
Oh, man, that sounds great, doesn't it? Real bipartisan stuff there, right? What a hero. But here's the thing about political ads. They're written by people who know exactly which facts to leave on the cutting room floor. Because once you actually pull up this guy's legislative record, not the ad record, the whole story starts to wobble. All right, let's start with property taxes, since that's where the ad really leans hard. Talarico's campaign wants you to know that he helped pass the largest property tax cut in history back in 2023. And look, credit where it's due. That bill, SB 2, really was historic. It raised the homestead exemption all the way to $100,000. That's real relief for actual Texas homeowners. But here's the problem. Public legislative records show Talarico did not co-sponsor the bill, even though 18 of his fellow Democrats did. 18. He wasn't one of them. Look, give it a watch. Check it out. Here's the list of the sponsors. Now, it's the Senate. We'll get down to the House part, right? The representatives. Let's go all the way down to where Talarico's name should be. And he's not there. Look, right here. You don't see Talarico between Stuckey and Tepper. He should be there. He did not co-sponsor this bill. All right, check it out. Here is a list of members and their votes on the property tax cut bill that he just claimed in his campaign ad that he helped pass, the largest property tax cut in Texas history. So when I scroll down to Talarico's name, guess what? There he is, James Talarico. He voted nay. He voted against the bill. He did not vote for this bill, but he claims in his ad that he helped pass it. Now, that's a blatant lie. It's as blatant as it gets. You can't say that you reached across the aisle and helped to pass a property tax cut bill when you voted against it. So the guy taking credit for the largest property tax cut in history sat out of the bill and voted against the thing that came before it. That's an interesting start, don't you think? How can you trust a politician who lied that blatantly to you in his first campaign ad for the general election? I mean, think about it. He claimed that he got the two parties together so that they could vote for the largest property tax cut in history, and he voted against the bill. And property taxes aren't the only place where this pattern shows up. Guys, Talarico has also been a loud vocal opponent of the working families tax cuts. That's legislation that supporters call one of the largest tax reductions in a generation. Not exactly a guy fighting to lower your taxes, right? He called the legislation, I'm not kidding you, deeply immoral. This is progressive thought. He nicknamed the bill the Big Ugly Bill. He said, and I'm directly quoting, that those who voted for it need to pay a price at the ballot box. Now, to be fair, let's actually look at what the bill did, because it supposedly, according to the people who backed it, It's no small thing. Supporters argue that it would increase take-home pay by as much as $10,700 for some Texas families. It would help preserve over 500,000 jobs, expand the child tax credit for roughly 3.5 million Texas families, and increase the standard deduction for around 12 million Texans. Now, I want to be straight with you. Those numbers come from the bill's supporters. They're projections, not independent analysis. But even with that caveat, that's the bill James Talarico called deeply immoral. So why would the self-described affordability candidate fight that hard against tax relief? Do you see this? Well, once you zoom out on his full voting record, a pattern starts to form. And it's not a pattern of a guy trying to lower your bills. He voted against the 2019 constitutional amendment that would have prohibited a state income tax in Texas. He voted against a 2023 proposal banning a state wealth tax. He didn't even show up to vote on a 2025 proposal to stop taxes on unrealized capital gains. Are you kidding me? So in other words, he wanted people who have, say, a 401k or stocks, and they didn't actually get the money for them yet. He wanted you to have to pay taxes on that. So you could pay taxes on, say, stocks that you own, right? And then you sell the stock, but the money went down. You don't get that tax back. He voted against banning death taxes. Affordability, really? And on top of that, he's campaigned in favor of raising the corporate tax rate. Now, income tax, wealth tax, capital gains, death tax, corporate tax. That's not one outlier vote. That's a 5-for-5 record on the opposite side of where his ad says he stands. He talks about affordability. He wants to tax the living hell out of Texans. Now, let's talk about another big theme in Talarico's messaging: corruption. He talks about it a lot. Last year, he voted against legislation that would have banned no-bid lobbying contracts for local governments. The kind of deal that lets insiders skip competitive bidding entirely. And during roughly that same window, reports indicate he personally earned tens of thousands of dollars as a contractor for a DEI-focused education organization. Make of that what you will. There's only one more story that's gotten attention, and I want to be careful with how I say this because it deserves that care. Previous reporting raised questions about the timeline of a romantic relationship between Talarico and a former chief of staff, with statements from Talarico himself and from another Texas House member suggesting that relationship began while she was still on his staff. Now, I want to be clear. This is a serious allegation based on published reporting, and it has not been independently verified. We're not going to pretend that it's more settled than it is. But taken all together, the property tax bill he didn't co-sponsor, the tax cuts he called immoral, the voting record that lines up against tax relief 5 times over, a no-bid contracts vote, and an unresolved personal allegation. Critics say you've got 2 completely different versions of James Talarico, the one in the ad and the one of the public record. Which one are you going to believe? That's exactly what elections are for, though, guys. Texas voters don't have to take my word for it, and they don't have to take Talarico's ad for it at its word either. They get to pull the record themselves and decide which version they believe. When Talarico faces Ken Paxton this November. So I know that the communists in Texas will still vote for this guy because the left is so ingrained in voting for people who will make their lives worse so long as it brings more power to the party. They're crazy. The liberal hive mind does not encourage independent thought. They act like mind-numbed robots, and they vote that way. And look, here's the bright side of all of this, if you will. Texas voters have more access to legislative voting records than almost any electorate in the country. Every vote referenced in this video is public. Nobody has to trust an ad. Nobody has to trust me. The record speaks for itself, and it's sitting right there for anybody who wants to look. So tell me what you think in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. Check out our live stream tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
America.